Should you try to score all fives on the edTPA? Let's talk about that. Hi, I'm Dr. Von Duke. I'm a professor of education and a certified Pearson reviewer for the edTPA. I've worked as an edTPA consultant for over 5 years, and I have a 100% pass rate from my clients. My channel is a result of my desire to lessen the emotional and mental burden placed on candidates as they're going through this complex process. I noticed as a reviewer that there were small changes and strategies that a candidate could use to score higher. And I also have an understanding of how ambiguous the questions can be. I share this information freely and publicly on this channel, along with offering more systematic courses that provide graphic organizers, step-by-step directions and places to draft your work and then write your work and how to submit your work. And then I also offer ultimately counseling should you, or rather consulting, should you need my services to help you match your particular context to the portfolio that you are challenged with completing. So this vlog posting though is about excuse me while I get my little setup going on here, is about why you will never score all fives on the edTPA. So the first thing is, what does it mean? What are fives? So in order to score 5 in many rubric areas, you need to include plans for your focused learner to either be able to generalize, maintain their learning, self-manage supports, self-monitor their learning in some fashion like that. Each rubric takes a slightly different twist for this question. For task 1, the way the level 5 scores are worded, for instance, 1 in 5 asks how the focused learner is involved in monitoring their own learning. And in 2, 3, and 4, they're asked about self-managing plan supports provided now, not for the future, for instance. So, so those are some of the things that are required of you. It changes a little bit, maybe more initiation, in task 2, and maybe plans for self-determination in task 3, but they're all basically around that. More of the control is in the hands of the focused learner. So why is it that candidates don't in general get 5s? One reason is that they haven't met the level 3 or 4 criterion. And you'll see on the rubric, so you're provided a special education handbook. And in that handbook, you'll see a rubric, how it's scored for each of the rubrics going through the different tasks. You'll see across that level 1 to level 5. And often, especially at the level 3 and 4, there's 2 parts. So the first part, if you get that, you'll get that level 3. But in order to get a 4, you have to get the first part of level 3, the second part of level 3, and the first part of level 4, and that gives you the 4. In order to get the 5, you need to get the first and second part of 3, the first and second part of 4, and then the level 5. So that's a lot. And it's, very often difficult for a candidate to achieve. Secondly, candidates are very often loath to put materials into the students' hands. So I've seen videos where teachers are using hands-on materials with students. This is outside of COVID or the necessity to zoom in for a classroom. So the teacher side by side with the student, but the teacher's holding the materials, the student doesn't have them in hand, even though they're meant to be constructivist hands-on materials. They often make lesson scripts that are so tight in the way discussion occurs that there's no time for the student to go off topic a little bit. And so students can't initiate questions, they can't bring in other reflections. And very often when students do this, they are related to the lesson content, but that relationship can be maybe one step removed from being on target, and that can be difficult for candidates to manage. So they choose not to do that while they're doing something that's performative and videoed for outsiders to view. Another reason why candidates don't get 5 is very often the 5 plans ask the student to plan for something that's going to happen in the future, whether it's a plan for that student to generalize, maintain, or self-manage those supports and use that in the future. And ethically, this feels wrong because they feel that I'm not actually going to see the student again. I only have the student for 3 weeks, so I don't want to make a plan that I can't follow through on. So those are some of the reasons. Another reason why they won't get a 5 is because, excuse me, I had to add this one because I just realized it's something that happens importantly. And that is that you don't see a question that asks you to answer the 5-level information on the commentary, but it is on the rubric. Students are told in the handbooks to go to the rubric, but obviously your focus is more on the commentary than on the rubric. And so they forget, or they don't know, or it might even not feel allowed to go add a section on the commentary that's not asked for. I think that's kind of a dirty trick on the part of the edTPA. Another reason is you don't want to try for all 5s. And let me tell you why you don't want to try for all 5s. First of all, you don't need all 5s to get your dream job with the salary that you deserve. And so why work harder than you need to when it's not going to make a difference for you, other than maybe the pride of thinking that I got a perfect score. If you're teaching real kids right now, they are far more important than edTPA scores. So getting a passing score on the edTPA serves the purpose of your career and doesn't take away from teaching of kids. Your circumstances, the context of your teaching, the time frame that you have to teach your particular focus learner, the particular set of lessons that you are tasked to teach that learner may not afford 5s on the edTPA. It just might not provide the evidence that a 5 could give. Importantly, the edTPA is a test designed for field-ready novices. So that means in terms of test validity, validity and reliability are two things that test makers strive for. You would strive for in creating your own end of unit tests. Means that the questions are not designed to show expert teaching. They're designed only to see if you're an adequate novice. So even if you did get all 5s on the edTPA, it wouldn't say anything about your teaching. In fact, it would be a misfire about whether you were a good teacher or not, because that's not what it's measuring. And finally, and most importantly, a reviewer is not ever going to give you all 5s, because it's very rare that candidates get 5 for the reasons that I've said. And so their review of your portfolio, say you got all 5s or even 2 5s on each task, it would be yanked, because that would be very unusual. So the trainers or the managers over top of those reviewers would yank those portfolios and have them rescored by a couple other folks to make sure that that was accurate. Meanwhile, that reviewer is going to be shut down, and they're going to have to sit out the scoring season, which typically is not more than 8 weeks, twice a year. So that means they're going to lose 3 or 4 days of scoring if they give you all 5s or too many 5s, and that's going to work against them financially. So for that reason alone, a reviewer is going to get penalized. They're not going to give you all 5s. If you want more information, I post vlogs on a regular basis with these sorts of tips. I also have my quick and dirty, which are free strategies and videos on how to understand the questions, to sort of take the ambivalence out of the questions or ambiguity rather, out of the questions on the edTPA. But I also offer courses, starting with a pre-rubric course. Task 1, each rubric has its own course. It's a step-by-step approach to it. You can stop and start it and do the work as you go along in between your days at work and not lose any ground. I've done all the thinking for you. You don't have to move ahead and try to see what's coming and what went before and sort of put that all together for yourself. I've done that. My courses include a graphic organizer for you to gather your evidence to. And then the PowerPoint links and all of this is included along with each course. And then finally, my individual consulting. I work with elementary, secondary, as well as special education portfolios. I myself am certified as a secondary science ed teacher, and I have elementary experiences. And I teach elementary majors at the master's and undergraduate levels in my work as an education professor. So the way consulting works is you're going to send me your artifacts, preferably on a Google Docs, to the email there. You'll send me a payment also to that link. I will immediately turn around with a confirmation email and a suggestion for when we might meet to discuss the feedback that I will provide. I'll send you a mock score, suggestions for improvement within 24 hours before that appointment date, and then we'll meet for anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes, depending on the questions and needs that you have. All right, that's it. Look for me at the next video. and good luck on the daunting edTPA.